Hmm. This is interesting. I can't see anybody. Let me try. That's weird. There. Now I can see people. Let's see. I didn't realize that I didn't check the waiting room thing. So now I have to admit everyone that comes on. But welcome, Colin. Welcome, Kaylee.
Hi, Donna. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Oh, I just realized that I should really get the dog out of this room. Otherwise, she'll be begging for me to pet her. So I'll be right back. Willow, come on. Come on. This way. Hurry up. Good girl. There. There. In the mornings when I sit and meditate, part of my meditation is petting the dog. So as soon as she sees me on the computer, it's like, okay, time to get petted. Anyway, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. I read your little pre-read section. That was interesting
Good.
that you sent a couple of days ago.
Any questions about it?
No, really nothing new there, but it
Okay.
was still a good reminder.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's good to have a good reminder. Yeah. So,
And I just started another 4-week session with the online meditation as well yesterday. So
oh,
this
really?
is my week for meditation, apparently.
Great, great. What's that? What is that? The other session that you're joining?
Future Learn.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Know about
Yeah,
that.
they have 2 different sessions, both 4 weeks long. This is the advanced one.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah, well, you've been practicing for a while, so
On and off, I have to admit.
yeah. Well, what we're going to learn today is that you know you've succeeded in stage 1 if you sit down every day and meditate. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. But hopefully I'll find some of the ways to help you motivate yourself to
Thank
do
you.
that, to sit down. So,
Right.
yeah. So I'm going to wait for
Good
another.
morning, everybody.
Hi, Kit. What's that?
I just said good morning,
Oh,
everybody.
good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Nice to see you. Let's see. There's no one else waiting to be in.
Yes, Jackie Miller.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi,
Welcome. Welcome. This is your first
thank you.
time, so I'm glad you.
Yes, Maureen Paffenroth turned me on to you.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn a lot today.
Thank
And
you.
I think you will.
I hope to.
Yeah. So we're at a new time. We've been doing it. The COVID year was, let's see, 2 o'clock, right? Yeah, 2 o'clock every week for almost a year. I got distracted because Kaylee picked up this adorable puppy. So let me see him again. Oh, he's so cute. You just get him? Oh, you're muted, Kaylee. He's adorable. Kaylee, you're muted.
A month ago.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Oh.
what fun and what work.
Yes. What a pain in the neck for my 13-year-old golden retriever.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Wait a minute, Carol's there. I got to admit her. Okay, good. Got to keep my eye on the chat box to make sure I let people in. Yeah. Okay. Welcome. Okay. Well, it's the top of the hour, so we're going to start. And before we do, I just want to check in with everybody and see how you've been for, well, it's been about a month since we've met. So anybody want to share how you've been practicing or what your life has been like over the last month? Any changes, anything new? I know Kaylee got a puppy a month ago. Well, I'm just going to wait till you raise your hand, and if not, we'll move on. Kit?
Well, my daughter from California was here for a week,
Mm.
and we're very happy to have her. I was scheduled to go to Florida this morning to meet with my sister and some of her children, but she had a stroke.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
That happened about a week and a half ago. So I flew to West Virginia, and I was able to see her while she was still responsive. She's in hospice now,
Oh no.
and it's not expected to last more than a day or so.
Oh, oh,
Our sympathies.
my prayers are with you.
Yes.
So I've been a little depressed.
Well,
Sure.
really hard time. Really hard time.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Kit. So,
I'm in.
hi, Dorothy. Dorothy?
My son is here from Virginia,
Mhm.
and he's here. His father has dementia, and was here to try and help. And there's just been one problem after the next.
Oh,
So it's just been very difficult for him. He's very frustrated, and anyhow, he's working on it. I think he's going to leave this Saturday. But boy, has it been nice to have him around. Excuse me. So
hmm.
I'm sure that his stay here was productive in some ways, even if he's frustrated. So thank you for that. I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. Yeah. Stuff happens. And you also can see the silver lining. So
Yeah.
So Colin, did you raise your hand?
I did.
Okay.
So second day of rain here in Tampa. Last night we had a tornado warning, which was quite scary because both of our phones, had the alert.
Oh, I know. It's
And
awful.
yeah, it's not a common occurrence in Florida for tornadoes.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have they whirl up tornado-like things in the ocean or the Gulf, but not on land. As far as I know, this never touched down, just scared the bejesus out of us. So
Mhm.
otherwise, things are well.
Oh, good. Good. Good to hear. So,
I mean,
okay. Thank you, Colin. Anyone else want to share? Okay, Jackie.
I'm newly joined here, so I'm really happy to be with you. I do Calm app on my phone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I would rather either face people on this or be in person. I think it means more. I lost my partner of 21 years, November 28th.
Oh,
So I've taken a deep dive, but I seem to be coming back up. It's taking a long time. And as I've been reading all my grief counseling pamphlets, it does take a long time. And of course, he'll never go away from my heart.
yeah.
So I just need some meditation time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Well, good. And good for you to start doing something new.
Mm-hmm.
Because it starts filling some of the hole. Yeah. Helping the hole to get a little smaller,
Okay,
a little.
I like that. Helping the hole get smaller.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay.
I'm out.
Thank you. Yeah, Jackie, what we say when we're done is I'm in. That just simply means that you're done. So I don't talk over you. That's all. Just
So I just say I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct me along the way. Give
I
me
will. Sure.
I follow directions pretty well now.
Good to hear. So, okay, does anybody have any questions about the handout that I sent out? It's like a long one, I realize, but as Colin said, it was a good reminder.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions about it at all?
It's good.
Okay, okay, good, good. Then you can just keep it in your back pocket and check with it every now and then. So I went to print out what I was going to talk about today. I ended up with, let's see, 10, 12, 15 pages. Um, I realized a long time ago that 7 pages of outline was at least a half an hour. So I am going to have to be kind of going through and picking, not doing everything, that's for sure. That's what happens when you stay away for a month. And I've been learning a lot of new techniques, and I'm surprised that I didn't know this before. After getting that book that I recommended by Culadasa, The Mind Illuminated. So we'll talk about that, and we'll learn some of those, especially basic techniques, that mental techniques that can help. And I just want to make sure I don't have any students calling. So let's just start, because what I'd like to do in the beginning is, since we're doing kind of the backwards, let's say, or at the beginning, to have some basic, well, basic skills. And also, it's important to, if you're practicing meditation and it's not working for you, to remember why you're doing it. And so, anyway, so I'll go over a little bit about what the, how to motivate yourself and what the benefits are. The first thing I want to say is that it really does make a difference in terms of how fulfilling one's life can be, because it gives us the tools to examine our conscious experience. In other words, our sensations, our emotions, our thoughts. Because most of the time they just kind of happen and we're on to the next thing. But with meditation, we acknowledge it and stay with it to learn the message, and then we can let it go. And I'll quote Carl Jung. I just love this quote. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life, and you will call it fate. Isn't that good? Did everybody hear it? I want to make sure it didn't break up. So
Say it again.
okay. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life, and you will call it fate.
Mm-hmm.
Wise man. So the more conscious we are, the more we gain a lot of useful insights. We have a better understanding of our personality and of human behavior in general. And as Culadasa, by the way, he's a neuroscientist and a meditation master. So I'll be quoting him a lot for a while. And as he says, the conscious mind is brilliant and creative. And the other thing is that the more conscious we are of our habits, especially our conditioned habits, we can recognize them, then we can know which ones that we need to let go of. And the ones that don't serve us, right? So I also want to say, don't believe anything I say. I'm echoing what the Buddha said. Just take whatever I share and then experiment with it in the lab of your own mind. I mean, and that's really what meditation is sitting down and experimenting with techniques and with your conscious awareness in the moment, in the lab of your mind. So, and it's a great way to approach, I think, meditation too, is to be experimenting. So, and then in terms of benefits, the more we practice, the more we learn that happiness is a choice. And I first learned that, although didn't live it until I practiced it, but my first guy, spiritual guide, who's a Sufi, way back when I was like 30 years old, long time ago. Her name was Mary Pat Fisher, and she was the happiest person that anyone in my circle of friends ever knew. And I remember one day asking her why or what makes her so happy, and her response was, "It's a choice." So yeah, and the beauty of practicing meditation is we learn that happiness is a choice and suffering is a choice. Because once we recognize that we're suffering, we can stop. It's a choice. And as Richie Davidson says, Richie Davidson, who's the neuroscientist and founder of the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin, and they also have an app, a free app because of COVID, called, what is it called? Anybody of you using it? Well, anyway, Center for
Healthy Minds.
Healthy Minds. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
I use it.
Ah, do you? Okay. Yeah, yeah. And so you get the benefit of all of their science too. Anyway, as he says, happiness is a skill, and it's just like learning how to play a piano or any kind of instrument. It's you just keep practicing until you get better. And it's just, I think it's helpful to know that happiness is a skill. It doesn't just happen to you, and it's not just what do I want to say, a set point in your being. You can change it. So, and also if you're interested in studying happiness more, I actually took the course at UC Berkeley online. They do that once a year, and it's free. And it's a regular entry college level course on happiness. And so if you want to really cultivate it, it's a wonderful course. They really keep updating it and bringing in the science too. So, let's see, let me just skip through here. Do the bottom. So as we develop our meditation skills, what happens is that the more we practice, all of a sudden we start to develop, and it gives rise to these, let's say, exalted mental states, like joy and bliss and happiness. And also we actually become more comfortable physically. And we experience profound states, inner states of peace. So what's interesting is, as Culadasa says, that these peak experiences aren't the ultimate benefit of meditation. And as I said to you, or in the article that I sent out, I think it's important to keep remembering as he says, the peak experiences aren't the ultimate benefit of meditation. While bliss, joy, and tranquility are delightful, they come and go. So they're interrupted by, the difficult life experiences and agitations, right? And as he says, the ultimate goal is enlightenment or liberation, which is complete and lasting freedom from suffering that's not affected by aging, by old age, sickness, and death. And the truth is that the more we practice, we change the default state of the mind, and joy becomes our default. Okay. So, our default state of mind, yeah. So generally, most teachers, well, they either start with open awareness, but that's kind of like transcendental meditation, where they may give you a mantra, but they're also having you just repeat it because it and be open to whatever else arises. And in Zen, which is what I have studied for the last 17 years and practiced, they teach you to focus on one thing. It's called one-pointed concentration. And when the mind wanders, bring it back. And that's it. Those are pretty much the only instructions you get. Sit down, shut up, and don't move. And then if you have a question, you can go and ask the teacher later. But let's see. I think what's important is that you want to have both. You want to be able to have open awareness and a balance of, in fact, what Culadasa says is that if we have open awareness or peripheral awareness and a balance of focus, attention, that's how he defines mindfulness, which is quite interesting. So we're going to talk about open awareness in a bit and practice so that you can become more aware of it and what it is. Okay. Also that there's 10 stages for meditation that progress towards awakening. And he says, Culadasa says that you need to master certain skills in each stage before you can move on to the next. For example, you had to learn how to walk before you could run, right? So he says you have to move through the stages in order without skipping any. It's kind of interesting. And he says if you want to improve quickly, the most important factor is a clear understanding of each stage. So that means recognizing the mental capacities that you need to cultivate, and then also methods to overcome the obstacles that get in your way. So his book does go through all of that. And that's what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks, I think. Next week we'll be focusing on really what mindfulness really is, and also the obstacles that get in the way and the solutions to practicing meditation. So I'm going to start with sharing about what stage 1 and 2 is, and then we'll see if we can get to the other stages. Maybe not, depending on the time. So stage 1, he suggests that you put all your effort into forming and holding the conscious intention to sit down and meditate every day, and practice diligently for the duration of the sit, even if it's only 5 minutes, all right? And he says that with intentions that are clear and strong, that then you regularly sit down and enjoy your meditation. And he says if this doesn't happen, that instead of chastising yourself, right, or trying to force yourself to practice, then he says work on strengthening your motivations and your intentions. So we'll talk about intentions and motivations in a moment. How do you support your motivation? First, as he says, diligence will help you get going, but the real solution to the obstacles is learning how to enjoy your practice. So that would include, first, intentionally savoring all the feelings of physical comfort. And then the second thing is to deliberately cultivate the pleasure that can be found in quietness. Now, I know there are some guided meditations, and I've led them before, and I like the idea of actually calling to mind something and actually having that be your meditation that you remember, that you found very pleasurable, and to sit with that and get to know how that feels in your body, because it's much easier to recall it if you know how it feels in your body. Okay. And then the third thing he says is to take satisfaction in the fact that you actually sat down to meditate, because that's an accomplishment in itself. Okay. He also goes on to say that too often, too many people see meditation as though they're taking medicine and it tastes bad and they have to grin and bear it, just because it's good for them. So he says to instead, if you make meditation into a pleasurable activity, okay? In other words, if you're at ease and happy, well, then you're going to be more successful, right, than if you're tense and straining. And he also says the more you succeed in seeking out the pleasant aspects of meditation, the more motivated you're going to be. And as you progress to the higher stages, this is the important piece. As you progress to the higher stages, you won't just deliberately cultivate joy. It will eventually become your default state of mind. It's a really important one to keep in mind. That, and I've shared this before, that years ago, whenever I would relax and not be focused on something, there was always this background, always a feeling of sadness. And after practicing for a while, And I remember one day thinking, the sadness is, there's no sadness there. And I also remember thinking, that must have been a habit. It can become, your state of mind can become a habit, or your default state of mind. In other words, when you're not focused on something. So start to check in when you're not focused on something. What's the state of your mind? This is an important activity to practice. Where's my mind right now? How am I feeling? What's the state of my emotions? And eventually it becomes your default. Joy becomes your default. So, also, I think it's interesting. Culadasa says that stage 1 is the most difficult to master. Sitting down and practicing every day is the most difficult to master. And he says you can do it in a few weeks, even though it's the most difficult. So, and like he said before, you've got to start with the basics and move through at each stage. And so I'll make sure that maybe what I'll do is mail out some kind of overview of the 10 stages, because not everybody's going to have the book. And that way you can have that to refer back to, and and check in with, what stage am I at? Okay. So, and I'll just quote him one more time. By following the basic instructions in cultivating the right attitude, you will develop joyful effort and diligence and establish a regular daily practice. This, he says, the time and effort put into mastering this stage will pay off far beyond anything you can imagine. So hopefully that's encouraging. So we're going to look at stage 2 then, okay? And I'm going to ask you, maybe those of you who don't have yourself muted, why don't you go ahead and mute just in case you get a phone call or something, so we don't get interrupted. So in stage 2, what you want to do is hold the intention to appreciate the aha moment, like that recognizes when your mind has wandered. So that's the first intention. And remembering that everything we've ever learned, or for the most part, if we've intentionally wanted to learn something, it was based on our intentions. Like if you wanted to learn how to play darts, your arm did not know how to hit the target, right, with that dart. So you just intend to hit the target over and over and over until eventually your arm actually does it and you hit the target. Well, it's the same thing in meditation. You just keep intending to recognize that your mind wandered, so that rather than chastising yourself when it wanders, which it's going to do, is to appreciate when you notice that it wandered. So that's the one important thing. And then you gently but firmly redirect the attention back to the breath. And then instead, intend to engage with the breath, or whatever you choose to focus on, whatever you've chosen to be your, let's call it an anchor, okay? So you intend to engage with your anchor as fully as possible, okay, without losing peripheral awareness. Now, when I read that, it was like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. And what really made me annoying is he never teaches you how to do that. So I spent the last month practicing with engaging with my peripheral awareness and trying to balance it with my focus. So we're going to do some more of that, and I'm going to go into it more deeply. I'll just finish going over the overview on at least stage 2. All right. As he says, practicing these 3 intentions become mental habits. All right. So that's appreciate that you notice that your mind wandered, then gently but firmly redirect your attention back to the breath or your anchor, and then intend to engage with the breath or anchor as fully as possible without losing peripheral awareness. Okay. So, does anybody know what I'm talking about when I talk about peripheral awareness?
No.
Okay. See? Yeah. And I have to tell you though, by practicing this for the last month, it has changed how I live my life. When we I'll share how that happened in a bit. All right. So let me skip over here to attention and peripheral awareness. And I'm going to give you a little visual, which will then help clarify, I think. So can everybody see this visual here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so conscious experience, as he says, our conscious experience takes two different forms, attention and peripheral awareness. When we focus our attention on something, it dominates our conscious experience. At the same time, however, we can more generally be aware of the things in the background. So attention singles out some small part of the content of the field of conscious awareness, right, from everything else in order to analyze it and interpret it. So that's what attention is doing. So on the other hand, peripheral awareness is more holistic. It's open and inclusive, and it provides the overall context for our experience. So he really says it's important to make the distinction between attention and peripheral awareness. So if you're sitting in a conversation with someone, all right, and your focus is on the person's, let's say, their eyes or their face, while at the same time, Jackie, would you mute your, I don't want to say mic, yeah, thank you. So at the same time, your focus is on the face, but you're aware of, let's say there's a dog barking in the background and maybe an airplane flying over. You're still listening to what the person is, what the conversation, and that's where your focus is, but you're also aware of how the tea tastes in your mouth, and how warm it is. You may even hear cars in the background out the window going by. All of these things are all happening, so we're aware of them. That's our peripheral awareness, yet we're focused on the conversation. Okay. My husband and I started playing around with this, where because one of the articles, because I had to do a lot of research to try to learn more about what peripheral awareness was, and so we started practicing this thing where we would focus on each other's body, paying attention to the face, and at the same time be aware of the environment around the person, around each other, in other words, whoever we were listening to. So, and what we both discovered was that if we held the intention to be aware of the environment that whoever was speaking, then when the mind it couldn't really wander, because you were aware that the mind wandered before it wandered, that the mind wanted to. You could start to feel that the mind was wandering, because if you're aware of what's happening, then you're aware of what's happening to your mind. Okay, so you can catch it. So awareness catches what the mind is doing, and that's the key. So there's peripheral awareness, which is, in other words, you're aware of your environment visually, but you also that's called extrospective attention, or extrospective awareness. And introspective awareness would be awareness of what's happening in your mind and in your body, your emotions, all right? It'll become clear the more we stay with this, and we're going to practice and do some exercises too. So I'm going to stop this share so I can see everybody again. And yeah, just here. Oh, okay. One article I found, it says, ask any new mother why she was deeply asleep and yet awoke instantly at slightly perturbed rustling of their infant. So in other words, awareness is always happening 360 degrees, 24/7. So that's one example. And as Culadasa says, our conscious mind at any given moment distributes its capacity between attention and peripheral awareness. So when one is stronger, the other one gets weaker, and vice versa. Okay. So, all right. So our conscious mind has two ways of knowing: attention and awareness. And we can learn how to balance the two. Now, those of you that took that, remember we did the guided dissolving pain or dissolving anxiety? In that, what we were doing is practicing open awareness. And the way that Tomas Kopek teaches it is, and Les Femi teaches it, is to be aware of the space around you. We're going to do it a little differently today. But let me just skip over here. Okay, well, I also found on YouTube an organization called Z Health, and they train athletes. And one of the ways they train them to become aware of their peripheral awareness, and I'm going to have you try this, is to put your hands on either side of your head and your face, and move them, keep wiggling your fingers, move them out as far as you can, and still be aware of them. So in other words, and if you can't be aware of them, bring them back, so that that's how far your peripheral awareness goes at this point. Now you can actually extend that eventually and get it further and further. But you know, athletes, okay, you can go ahead and bring your arms down. Athletes really need to be aware of the whole field, as well as the ball or whatever they're focused on. I guess it's usually a ball. Okay, yes, Dorothy.
I was going to say I taught kindergarten and I developed that skill, especially during playtime and everything. You could always keep track of everybody, but you had to expand your vision, your awareness.
Yes.
And so I still kept that. I see things all the time that are on the side or
Yeah.
behind.
Excellent.
I just
Thank
thought
you.
I'd say that.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. Because they also suggest that when we're using our peripheral awareness, that it actually relaxes the parasympathetic or activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which relaxes us. And when we are on focused attention, it actually reduces the amount of peripheral vision we have. So if you're driving and you're really stressed, your actual visual focus becomes shorter or more narrow. Okay. And that's why people can cut you off without you knowing it. But because if your awareness is expanded, then you're going to see them coming before that happens. Okay. So that's what I want to say about the more we practice dropping the focus and expanding awareness, you'll actually feel your body relax. You know. So maybe we should do an exercise now. Yeah, why don't we do that? To get more of a sense of the difference between attention and peripheral awareness, all right? So try this by just holding a finger in front of your face, and for the next 10 seconds, all right, just focus on the tip of your finger, all right? I'll give you a timer. Okay, start. Okay, now recall if you were aware of anything else in your visual field during that 10 seconds. And notice whether it was clear or fuzzy. Okay. And so the same thing happens with our other senses too. And try this now with the sensations of your breath, okay? Let's shift. And just become aware of the breath at the nostrils for 2 to 3 breaths, okay? Go ahead. And now, recall what else you were aware of during that time. Were you aware of any other sounds or any other body sensations or even thoughts during that time? And notice whether they were clear or fuzzy. Now, if something else became clear during that time, then that means that you altered your attention. You altered your consciousness from peripheral awareness to, yeah, because that's the normal, our normal way of being is that we keep going back and forth between the two. That's what is alternating, okay? So if things were fuzzy in the background, like the peripheral, let's say peripheral vision above, then you were in the peripheral awareness. Okay. So if you didn't notice anything other than the breath sensations, what they suggest is that you're holding your attention too tightly on the breath. Now, I thought, that's what we were supposed to do, is be able to focus one exclusively. But guess what? Culadasa says you are not able to exclusively focus your attention until stage 6. So, isn't that good to know? So, and don't, in other words, he says, drop the idea that you can master your mind. Although we believe that we can, not in the beginning, it's not possible. So that's why you focus on that stage 2 on noticing that the mind wandered, right? Okay. So let's see. Is it started? Let's talk a little bit about how it can help you in normal life. Oh, and I love the best example I've heard for recognizing the balance between focus and peripheral awareness is, imagine that you're walking through a crowded coffee house with a full cup of tea in your hand. You've got to focus on not spilling it, and also you have to be aware of your environment so you don't bump into and you don't let anybody else bump into you. Okay, so that to me is the best example. And so how does that help you in your daily life practicing? Without the peripheral awareness, that it's likely that you'd spill the tea, right? Okay. So I did talk to you about the example of driving. And also, for example, as I said, when you're using your peripheral awareness or peripheral vision, and it's good to just start with practicing with peripheral vision, really, because that's the easiest. But for example, I was getting ready to come on the call, and I was putting in my contact, and if I don't focus 100% on that contact, it either falls off my finger or it goes in wrong, and then I have to take it back out. And I was feeling a timeline, a deadline that I had to get here, right? I didn't want to be late. And so what I did was, instead of really trying to focus harder, I just said to myself, okay, go into peripheral awareness, become aware of your environment, become aware of everything around you. And then I could immediately feel the body relax. Of course, I was able to proceed without dropping anything and got it done fast and got here on time. So it's like really learning how to activate, so to speak, or to strengthen your peripheral awareness as a way to calm yourself down. So they also recommend for people who have a lot of anxiety, what happens is that when we're using our peripheral awareness, it cuts down on our internal dialogue. And a lot of times the internal dialogue is what keeps the anxiety going, keeps if we have any kind of difficulty, emotion, the stories we tell ourselves are what keeps it going. So this kind of stops the stories, stops the mind narrating all these stories to actually open your peripheral awareness. Besides, what I would recommend is to practice for a while just being in peripheral awareness. Like, for example, yesterday, I just sat in peripheral awareness, not focusing on anything because it feels so good. It's like, why bother? Why bother using your attention? Just enjoy how good this feels. So I think it's wonderful to just practice that. And then try to, and that's what I had to do, is then try to bring in, while you're in your peripheral awareness, focusing on something. So I think what we should do is a guided practice. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So is there a difference between open awareness
Mhm.
and peripheral awareness? And if
Same
so,
thing.
what is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, he calls it peripheral awareness because it's something other than what the focus, you know. But yeah, it's open awareness. Um, yeah, and that's introspective or extrospective. So recognizing you're including your body and your mind in your environment. And then that's why I think it's so relaxing, is because you don't exclude anything. You're just including everything. So that's like, I think that's why you call it open awareness. It's perfectly open. Yeah. Hmm. So, so let's try a short practice, all right? It did take longer than I thought it would. And we'll have to do the rest of the 10 stages of the overview next week too. So, okay, so I'm going to skip this practice and then over here. Okay, I'll start by ringing the bell because sometimes it's good to just follow the sound into silence. And you'll want to find a really comfortable position that you can hold for a while. So taking your seat, perhaps bringing your attention in this moment just to slow the breath down or deepen it. And scan through the body, starting with the feet, looking for any areas of tension and inviting the tension to relax, to release. Calves, shins, thighs, aware of the support of the chair that you're on or the cushion, the torso, the whole torso, front, back, sides, aware of your shoulders. Allow them to drop down, arms, hands, your neck. Allow the jaw to relax. Place the tongue on the upper palate behind the front teeth. And that creates a bit of suction, so it helps the jaw relax more. And soften the eyes if they're open, perhaps keeping them the gaze down, but softening the gaze. And allowing a smile at the lips, just a slight smile, the lips and the corners of the eyes. Allowing the forehead to broaden. And as you exhale, see if you can let go of thoughts so that you can better feel your breathing. Just notice how the breath affects your body. You feel it in the rib cage or in the shoulders or the belly. You notice how you can settle a little more as you exhale. Just aware of the rhythm of your breath. See if you can imagine that the breath is the center of all things. And then set the goal for yourself to be aware of a number of breaths, maybe just 2 or 3. And then if you can, and you do that easily, then you can try 4 or 5. And watching the sensations of the breath as it changes. Curious about this change. And now, as we transition, practicing on both the concentration on breath and peripheral awareness. So, using our consciousness to include whatever comes into our awareness. The panoramic awareness is often associated with being relaxed in the mind, not trying too much, just letting go of what takes you away from the present. And in letting go, you're aware of the sounds around you, 360 degrees. Space your body occupies, aware of your environment and everything in it at once in a relaxed, open way. A thought comes in, and you let it go and come back to this moment of awareness, relaxed, open, aware of your environment. And it might be helpful to imagine your self-experience like the hull of a boat that's out in the middle of a river. The current of the sensation and the other mental phenomena always moving. When we're able to pay attention to the breath or our anchor persistently, it's like putting an anchor off the bow of the boat and it settles into the bed of the river so that the flow of experience is streamlined, moving through the flow of awareness without becoming stuck. Other sensations like thoughts, images, moods are like objects being carried along by the current. In the periphery of your awareness, they bump into the hull of your selfing process. Let them come, let them be, let them go. And they'll keep changing, and your attention will be stable, but lacking in distress. Calm, peaceful. So now I encourage you to practice stable attention on the breath, anchoring process, and peripheral awareness that is open to allowing experiences elsewhere in the body without being pulled away from the breath. Noticing the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath. We're cultivating persistent attention on the breath, and it's a decision that you make. The intention to keep the mind on the breath over and over. And then allowing that attention that's focused on the breath to be more expansive, being attentive to the sensations in the nose, but also other sensations in the face or your hands. All these other peripheral experiences are flowing changer nature, flowing changing nature of experience. But the repeated intention to focus on the breath stabilizes and allows all these peripheral experiences to arise and pass away without our grasping them. Just allow them to pass away, move through the current. And then when the mind does get hijacked, when it grabs onto something that bumps into your awareness, notice how that changes your experience. Maybe the stress of wanting a pleasant experience, or not wanting an unpleasant experience. And then you disregard that and bring your focus back to the breath, the mind committed to watching the in-breath and the out-breath, and noticing how that changes your experience. So when we notice how the mind is affected, craving for the pleasant or to be rid of the unpleasant, or becoming fixated or captured, maybe enchanted by some story or some expectation, and then going back to the refuge of the sensation of the breath, peaceful, clear, restful, and calm. So it's not possible to stop change from occurring, external change in the environment, and even internal change in the way the mind makes meaning out of experience. By training your attention in a focused way, using the breath as that target cultivates a different way of relating to life experience, less reactive emotionally, more adaptive intellectually. In other words, stabilize attention on the breath and be open to all the changes that occur in the periphery of your awareness without reacting, just noticing and letting go. And if the mind creates a story, you can tell yourself it's not a failure, it's a training, it's a discipline. Using the breath sensation as the primary point of reference, the anchor in the stream of consciousness around which all other experience flows. So it's okay to keep resetting the anchor. Keep resetting the anchor without blaming, without criticizing, without doubting. Those judgments are just objects flowing in the stream, letting them come and go with the breath as your calming reference point. Thoughts, perceptions, just objects flowing in the stream. Flowing in the stream, not who you are, just phenomena of nature. Only when we grab them and build a self around it, that we either have to defend or gratify, that's when the problem occurs. Thoughts are useful in their own way, but we want to use them, not let them use us. Breath is central focus, everything else on the periphery, in awareness. So, how was that for you? I see Kaylee smiling.
Very relaxing.
Were you able to keep the attention on the breath and allow whatever was happening in the
Yes, yes,
that's because you were a kindergarten teacher, huh?
I guess.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share how it was or any questions about that practice? Carol?
Um, I I found it was very, very relaxing, but I found I was concentrating more on the breath because normally I don't use the breath during meditation. I find that doesn't work as well for me as some other anchor. So I don't think I was as aware of, of the peripheral awareness thing.
Because you had a new anchor, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, working with anchors, we need to be more aware that of what's going to work for you. Like you say, other things work better. And it's only recently I've started focusing on the breath. In years past, as I've said before, I focused on the sound of either the hot tub or the furnace, but any kind of long, constant sound was what I was able to keep my mind on. Yeah. But, eventually you do train the mind so you can put it anywhere you want it. So. And keep it there. But this thing about expanding and also allowing peripheral awareness to be, or open awareness, I like that word better as a matter of fact, allowing things to just pass through, really does help to calm the whole system. So it's worth it. Anybody else have any questions about it or comments about the practice? And if not, yes, Colin?
I like the concept of the boat and the thoughts bouncing off the hull.
Mm,
I mean, before we've heard of, the rock and the water flowing by,
yeah.
clouds going by,
Mm,
but the simile of the boat and the anchor kind of go together.
yeah, it does, doesn't it? And this came
Yeah.
from, it's in Florida. There's it's called Insight Meditation Group. And his name was Peter Carlson, who came up with that analogy, which I think is just wonderful. Also, because you have the images of the stream, stuff flowing. I mean, we've all been in a boat where we watched stuff flowing by that was in the water, So I think that also helps the process. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Well, we've gone a couple minutes over, so I don't want to keep people. Carol?
Just an aside, when you were talking about carrying the teacup through a coffee shop,
Yeah.
I was thinking, wow, waitresses or wait staff, they have to really have peripheral awareness,
Right.
say in a busy restaurant. Wow.
I hadn't thought of that. That's why I hated being a waitress. I tried it. I lasted 4 days. It was like, I can't do this.
Too
Because you were
much.
saying try to move faster, and I was like, I can't move any faster. So, yeah. So that's probably why I didn't have very good peripheral awareness. Or peripheral
I
vision.
really,
What's that?
I really appreciated the permission to have that peripheral awareness and not be so focused, because I have been finding in the morning worship with Pendle Hills that sometimes I'm so tense I can't relax. Going breathe, and yet there's tension all over my body. To expand my awareness will greatly help that. So
It
I
really is
didn't know
amazing.
why I was like that or what to do about it, because focusing was not doing it.
Yeah, I hear
So
you.
that was really good.
Oh, wonderful.
So-
What a good practice. Yeah, it's made a difference in my life too. Just like I said, to be able to
Mhm.
focus.
Petting dogs is good focus.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, we lost Dorothy. I don't know what happened, and Jackie, and I didn't see them try to come back in, but anyway. Okay, so have a wonderful week and
Thank you.
practice. And if you
You
have
too. Thank you.
if you have questions
you,
during the week,
This
send me
was
an
fun.
email. And yes, love.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Be well.
Colin.